I'm Mindy Cohn, and you're listening to You Might Know Her From with Damian and Ann. I love them.
Oh, Lordy. Hello, and welcome to 2021 and another episode of You Might Know Her From with Damian and Ann.
Hello, I am Damian.
I'm Ann. I thought I would just fly right through that for the very first time in my life and see how it felt.
You threw it away.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to throw it away.
No, it's good. I love a thrown away line sometimes. It's so effortless. What are you doing?
What are you doing?
Oh, it looks like you were like going to say your mouth is shaped into a like...
Okay, wait. I have a question for you. Have you ever... I did make my mouth in this motion. I did make the sort of like puff as if I was blowing smoke rings with a cigarette. Have you ever blown smoke rings in your entire life?
I'm so glad you asked.
I've never asked you that.
So one time...
You did it exactly one ring?
Well, no. It was one night. What was that bar? We were at school at Marymount on the Upper East Side, and there was that bar that was like you walked out of the dorms and walked left, whatever, and that towards 3rd Avenue, I think, right?
The old stand?
No, the old stand was...
Oh, Johnny Walker Black's?
Is that what that was? On the corner, right? And I went in there, and I was in the back room, and shout out to Jeremy King, who was with me, and Missy Haydog, if you're listening. And I was smoking cigarettes for who knows what reason, but I was, like, wasted. I was also 18 and weighed, like... Mind
you, the smoking ban came like 6 months after we got into college, but I also, the first 6 months of college, just would like put a cigarette behind my ear wherever I went so that I'd be like, oh, I've just got this single cigarette.
I hate cigarettes so much, but I was smoking one and I was so drunk, and I remember putting my lips together and blowing rings, and I remember looking at Jeremy, who I wasn't super close with at the time, and I said, you see this, right? You'll remember this. He said yes. So Jeremy, if you remember... co-sign me. I
don't like cigarettes either. I'm glad it never took, but I mean, to this day, it's still a dream of mine to blow a smoke ring, so I might just have to start practicing.
Yeah, we'll get you a hookah to do that with. So something I wanted to tell you that I was like really... Okay, so I watched so much content, so much stuff over the course of the last couple of weeks. Like,
yeah, same.
Having the opportunity to see some family, being home alone. I've watched a lot of stuff. And that has included an entire season of The Flight Attendant, which people told me to watch. I said, you're telling me I need to watch a Kaley Cuoco show? And they said, actually, a listener, Phil, I think Phil said, I'm sorry to say you need to. And I was like, oh my God. So I did. Overall, I'm going to say sure. But best thing about The Flight Attendant, aside from it employing Rosie Perez, is that it employed Ann Harada in a moment. Yes!
Former guest of You Might Know Her From, Ann Harada.
Yes, showed up in this great moment. I mean, she unfortunately they don't give her enough to do, but I was like, is that fucking Ann Harada? Is that fucking Ann Harada? And then I got my phone out and I was like, fucking A. Good for Harada.
Did she have a scene with Kaley Cuoco?
Yeah, like sort of, yes.
Okay, so here's the thing. We have to have Ann Harada back on, and we have to find out what she knows about Cuoco.
Okay.
Because the fact that, Damian, you, after years of us having texts about Kaley Cuoco that were not in the positive category, I cannot believe that Twitter convinced you to watch this. Although I have to say that my partner saw like 3 lesbians tweeting about the Wilds, and she was like, let's watch it. This is required viewing. And like 10 hours later... I've seen all of the Wilds. I
feel triggered by this.
Look, I can't say I can recommend it. I'm glad I watched it, but I can't say I recommend it. What?
How dare you?
How dare I what?
Ann texted me and said, are you watching the Wilds? And me and Hannah are watching it. Like, watch it. And now I've been trying to talk to her about it for probably almost a week.
We talked about it multiple times. We've listed every actress by who's best to who's worst. We've talked about all the twists, all the plot holes. What else do you want to discuss about this show? Legitimately. Do you want to talk about the sand continuity where they filmed in New Zealand? Because some reviewer fucking wrote about the sand continuity, and I said, I'm throwing my computer across the room.
This flippant attitude is really choice, considering the one time we talked about it, she left the room and it made her partner talk.
I had to get dressed. Hannah was taking over. You're making me out to be something I am. Look, it was.
You're getting the villain edit. You're getting the villain edit.
I'm fine look, I'm fine with it. I own up to the fact that people told me that lesbian content was happening. Great, I will consume it. But I don't think it was real lesbian content. So for all of you dykes out there that are getting excited, I'm sure you've actually already watched it. So just DM both of us about it.
Also, another great moment of watching all of this stuff, I watched Soul, which I don't really need to talk about. It warmed my heart a little bit. But Sakina Jaffrey, former You Might Know Her From, has a great cameo as a doctor in it. And I was like, who is that voice? Is that Sakina? And then I Googled it while I was watching it and said, oh my God. And that was right after I'd seen Harada. And I thought, it's all coming together. I'm so happy all the You Might Know Her Froms are fucking working during COVID.
That's great. And also I watched The Undoing, which again, first 2 episodes, phenomenal. But then there's Annaleigh Ashford in a scene with Nicole Kidman. And I was like, well, good for you, fucking Annaleigh Ashford. Yes, of course. It was, again, former guests popping up all over our winter viewing.
No former guests in the Prom, to my knowledge, right?
Oh my God. We tried to look, Ariana DeBose was on our short list for a long time, but we haven't had her yet.
Yeah, we will get her one day. Do you think that James Corden had someone call him a faggot to prepare for his role as a gay Broadway performer? Also, why did Tracey Ullman look like fuck?
Oh my God, we didn't even talk about Tracey Ullman. We didn't even talk about Tracey.
Literally. Also, Mary Kate Place is in the Prom, and she's
Mary Kate Place. Oh my God. Oh my God. She showed up, and I was half asleep. I had already fallen asleep to that point in the movie, and I was like, Mary Kate Place.
Yeah, Mary Kate Place shows up. What a wonderful. We love that You Might Know Her From for working. Tracey Ullman, not a guest yet, shows up and is doing Jerry Blank.
Thank you. Exactly. She looks exactly like Jerry Blank. That wig was out of control. And I saw her from 10 feet away and I said, that's motherfucking Tracey Ullman. You know it is because Meryl Streep's in this movie. And so she said, I've got just the person who would love an old wig. They're the same age. I think Tracey Ullman's younger than Meryl Streep. Anyway, I screamed.
How dare they cast her as James Corden's fucking mother? I
need him to stop. I don't need him to die, but I do need... I do need him to stop. Look, Nathan Lane clearly didn't want the role. If they'd offered it to him, you know what I mean?
But they didn't offer it to him.
There are other people that should have been up for the role. Titus Burgess could have played the motherfucking role.
Absolutely.
Like, people that have... Yes. It's just like, it's annoying to me that he got that role and I had to watch him flounce around.
Neil Patrick Harris.
Me too. I would rather that motherfucking magician play that role in a fat suit and I'd be screaming the entire time, but I wouldn't have to have the same just painstaking face as I watched him. Oh God, he's the star of the film. It's not that little lesbian. He is.
It's Meryl Streep's fake teeth for me. Oh, she was like, you know what I need to convincingly play a 2-time Tony winner? Fake teeth. They were like, yeah.
And that bang, that little curl that she really used with her hand acting. Anyway, I'm glad look, again, like The Wilds, I'm glad I saw it. I actually enjoyed The Prom more than The Wilds. Sorry.
Oh, I loved The Wilds. With that note, now's the time of the show where we want to say, hey, thank you so much for being on this journey. We love you. We love doing this. Please, if you haven't already, leave us a review. You can give us some stars. You can write us a message. Let us know what you're liking. If you have criticism or constructive criticism, I should say, send us a DM. But if you have great things to say, then please post it. But if you have something you want to say, like, hey, I wish you would do more of this or include more of this, let's have a dialogue about it.
Okay, first of all, this week's episode was a big deal for us because it was closing one of the most important loops for us. And that is one of our very first episodes of You Might Know Her From with Nancy McKeon, who played Jo on The Facts of Life, of course. We are now sitting down with Natalie Green herself, Mindy Cohn, who was just so fun, so dishy, hilarious, no nonsense about the business. Also, one of the great things is she sort of met us on both levels, which is Damian is a Housewives aficionado and Kim Fields was on Housewives. So we asked her about, did she watch Kim Fields? So then we got into a whole Housewives conversation that didn't make this interview cut, but we will be saving it for you for the future. And of course, she watched Survivor, which Lisa Welcher from The Facts of Life also had a season on. So she's watching the same sort of stuff we are, which just meant we felt we were more simpatico.
I want to say this now before we get into it. If you're a uber super Facts of Life fan, we did talk about Natalie's quote unquote proposed spinoff. And also we talked about the Lost Girls from season 1. We did talk about that stuff. We just had so much with Mindy. We sliced that out and we're saving it for a future little thing, but just wanted to wet your whistles.
You might know her from The The Facts of Life,
Violent Tendencies,
Scooby Doo,
The Secret Life of the American Teenager,
and A Nice Girl Like You.
Oh, geez. We are here with actress, podcaster, and Emmy nominee, Mindy Cohn. Mindy Cohn, thank you for being on You Might Know Her From.
Thank you. Oh, it's such a pleasure to be with you both.
Okay, so Mindy, we're going to come in real hot with something that we are very into.
Okay.
You play the lead character in Casper Andrea's romantic comedy, Violent Tendencies, about a self-proclaimed fag hag named Violet who decides to create distance with her gay friends in an attempt to find love. And Anne and I were really into this film because it really reads like a early aughts, gay, indie, broad comedy, but centers you, the straight woman, in the film, which is so rare. Can you tell us about that film and that role, and was it specifically written for you or with you in mind?
It was actually written for Margaret Cho, and she was unable to do it. So when Margaret dropped out, Jesse actually called my agent and just said, like, I've wanted Mindy. She's not second. I'll be second to Margaret Cho any day of the week. But anyway, it was Luck of the Irish. I had a phone call with Casper, and really it was Jesse, who also co-starred with me in the film. That really pushed for me. And I have to say it was truly one of the best experiences I've ever had. I'd never seen parts of my story on screen before. I've never wanted to have sex with my gay friends. We all like the same men, but I like the straight ones. But there is this sense of intimacy and camaraderie that certain women have with gay men. And I've always had it. And then, of course, as a young in my 20s was kind of the first time I sort of had my gaggle of lesbian friends come upon me. And that world, while very different, still, it's just this sense of belonging to a group that you didn't think you would belong to. I don't know. It's my relationship with the gay world specifically has been so additive to my life in so many ways. And I just felt the film was such a love letter, not only to that relationship, but obviously to the city that I love, New York.
I want to come back to the movie, but while we're talking about your relationship to the gay audience, it was something that we were sort of very interested in. So it seems like, from our perspective, gay people have always gravitated towards you. And so based on your Instagram, it seems like you have a lot of maybe fancy, elegant gay men in your life. I'm just going to list a few, like Simon Doonan of Barney's, Mickey Boardman of Paper Magazine, and writer-musician Todd Allman, to just mention a few. So you said that it's always been true that you've been around a lot of gay men and then later in life lesbians, but like, how have you befriended so many creative gays in the industry in such diverse pockets?
You know, I've never been asked that, and I so appreciate that question because I just have creative friends. And a lot of us, unfortunately, bonded very early on in our lives, and we lost so many people. And that's really where the decision to kind of become, you know, family of choice, before it was a gay thing, was actually terms we all used because we were so young. I mean, I was 19, 20, 21 years old, and I'm flying back every weekend to New York City to bury multiple people. It starts out with, and I'm sure all your listeners can relate, your gay hairdresser. I then happen to be on a TV studio set where there are gay wardrobe people, and you know, that's my first exposure. But to meet these people, really, I had to go to New York and be in New York. And unlike Los Angeles, Creative Hub in New York City includes theatrical, fashion, music. And so we all met each other at a very young age. And then, you know, you just sort of like friend begets friend begets friend. And what's, you know, I don't know whether it's good news or bad news, but, you know, obviously, you know, I'm one of those girls that straight men don't look across the room and go, well, I've got to fuck her. I've just got to have her. I'm one of the women who you have to sit down and have a conversation with, and then I see the look in your eyes as you start to fall madly in love with me. And so with gay men, I think my gay friends at least related to that, right? Of maybe not being like the hottest tool in the shed, you know, and that it was about our personalities. We bond over that. Also, I so related as an actor being in a parallel universe. Most of my friends, and I'm 54, right, had a very hard time coming out. And so there's that sense most gay people feel, even if it's a week nowadays, because kids feel so free to just be you and me, which makes me very happy. But back in the day, it took a minute. I related to that. I never judged it. I never outed anybody. And I feel like they knew they had a safe haven with me. I feel the same way about my very attractive straight friends. I have a preponderance of very attractive friends, just aesthetically pleasing. And I think that's it too. I think that they see, like, I see past that this is fabulous, but what else do you have? And I think many of my gay male friends understand that them being gay is not the thing for me. It's the creative that really is the turn on for me.
To bring it back to Violent Tendencies, I think what's so nice about that film is that you are a three-dimensional character and you're not sort of viewed as someone who wants to fuck their gay friend or like a hanger-on or sort of sad. It's just like there is a part of you that's missing, which is that like you're not fulfilled maybe romantically or sexually, but then you have this like great sex scene. And I was like, yes, like Mindy Cohn, you better have a sex scene. And was that your first experience having a sex scene? And like, can you talk about what that was like, if so?
Well, I swear this is going to turn into an Al-Anon meeting really quick, because I have to say, it was my first sex scene. It was my first nude scene that got cut out of the movie, but I actually did nudity, and it was like, jump out, kiss myself, because, you can talk the talk as an actor, like, if the role requires it, this is my body, this is what it looks like, I'm going to, but, on the day, you're sort of like flop sweating. And there's, 50 people around. I mean, what was great is that, first of all, my crew loved me so much, and I loved them, that they were all like, hi, Min, morning, love you. But also my co-star was so nervous that the codependent in me took care of him. So I sort of like wasn't self-conscious at all because I was so about him. So it was all just very ego building as an actress. And it is one of those things that it's like I took it off my bucket list. Okay, done sex scene, done nudity. Like, okay, girl.
You've also played a lesbian, by our count, at least 2 times in the indie swing.
Many more. Yes.
Okay, great. So you're going to correct the record here. Also in the short film Operation Marriage. And
yes.
Of course, The Facts of Life has like a huge gay and very lesbian following.
Yes.
So separate from your personal life, what do you think it is about gay audiences that have responded to you as an actress?
Well, I have to tell you something. It's not so separate from Mindy, because what I find fascinating, and I might get on my little podium for a second, but it bothers me that people have either tried to out me or out me, and I've always said, my God, kids, if I was a gay woman, I would have rainbows tattooed on my nipples and run down Santa Monica Boulevard. Like, are you kidding me? I do think that many of the characters on Facts of Life, maybe not many, Joe, gave girls the permission, if they identified with her as gay, which Joe as a character wasn't. But I always thought, like, it's one of those things of representation. Like, they saw themselves in some of us. Bravo. I mean, no harm, no foul. I embraced it. I know that a couple of the other girls had issues with it. And I just chalked that up to just being ignorant, truly, like ignorant and not knowing yet, and hadn't come around yet. We were really young. I just had been exposed at such a young age. So to me, more the merrier. And if you see yourself, great, and don't let anyone else define who you are. But I totally understand. I mean, 4 girls living together. I mean, that was one of the reasons I sort of like, when Lisa Whelchel told the writer Blair is not going to lose her virginity because of her Lisa's religious beliefs. I said, first of all, I'm not Natalie, but I'll throw Natalie in the pot. Let's go. Let's get her laid. Somebody's got to get laid. Let's do it. She's got a boyfriend and she's got a hymen. Let's get rid of both. And I at that point was 19 and gratefully had lost my virginity as well. And I just thought, this is bordering on ridiculous. So I just think sexuality in general at that time was so nubby and challenging for people. So I always just think if people identify, yippee.
Okay, so while we're in the Natalie Green territory, let's just dive into the Facts of Life a little bit. So The story goes, of course, that you were cast in the sitcom when Charlotte Rae and a producer were doing research at the school that you attended. Can you share that nugget for our listeners?
Sure. Well, it was just this little producer named Norman Lear I don't know if you guys have heard of him. I know, what? And I'm going to say his right-hand man, which is probably totally dissing one of my dearest friends, Alan Horn. But it was Alan, Norman, and Charlotte came up to Westlake School for Girls, which is now Westlake Harvard. It's no longer all girls. And wanted to talk to some students about what it was like to go to an all-girls school, and do you miss boys, and is there competition, and what does it look like, and all that stuff. And I was one of those students. And the next day, the headmaster called me into his office and said, I just got this weird phone call, Min. They want to write a part for you. And I'm like, okay. Well, my mom's in court. My dad's on a business trip. My parents were not in the industry, to say the least. And so, walked into my mom, we figured out a time, and my mom took a day off of work, and we drove to Norman's office, and I walk in the office, and there's Charlotte and Gary Coleman, because it was a spinoff of Different Strokes, and Kim Fields. It's the first time I met Kim, and the casting director, and a couple other people, executives, and I read Natalie. So Natalie, the name Natalie, was Charlotte's real-life best friend in high school's name. And Norman asked me what color I liked, and I said green. And he goes, that works. And Natalie Green was born.
The show ran for 9 seasons. Once the show ended, what kind of relationship did you maintain with Charlotte prior to her passing? It seemed like you had a close relationship with her.
We all did. And they were all very different. But we stayed in touch. I would say that we're like that, all of us. I mean, I just think if you go through 10 years, 9 seasons and 2 movies later, no matter what age, but especially the age we were, I just think you don't necessarily have to be friends, although we all are, but you stay in touch with each other. It's like war, but good. They're my war buddies. Her first bout with cancer, I did not know about it until, kind of she was at the end of it and winning. And then from there, we kind of kept in contact. I got to see her before she passed, and it was a real loss to me and all of us. And the 4 of us kind of, it was one of those things where it's like, holy hell, we're going to lose each other. And there goes the first one kind of thing, But also a celebration, because what a life. What a life and what a person. So I think about her all the time.
Was she sort of abroad, or while you were on the show, was she sort of a mentor, an equal? How did the relationship evolve?
It was interesting because all of us started so young with her that she called us her girls, but we weren't. She wasn't a grandmother. She wasn't a mother. We all had them. I had my own amazing grandmothers and mom. Still do, thank God. But she was our captain. She was at the helm. There was respect, and she had respect for us. And we were professionals. It was a job. It was work. And one of the first and best lessons I learned from Norman, actually, which Charlotte kind of led day to day, is this is what we do. It's not who we are. So we take the work, very seriously, but not ourselves. And so we did. And that's why I think our set, in all of those crazy sets that you hear about, which we were neighbors of, right? That volatility and all the acting out and the drugs and the spending of the money. And we just didn't have that because we all, first of all, had our great families, but we came to work and it was work, and we enjoyed each other, but we worked together. It wasn't anything else than that. We got famous together, and we made NBC happy for a few years together, So it's like, and we made a couple people a shit ton of money for a while, right? So it was that.
Okay, so Mindy, some of Natalie's storylines from the Facts of Life deal with her Jewish identity, her adoption and eventual reunion with her birth mother, rumors about her being easy, the unexpected death of her father, her sexual assault, and ultimately, as you mentioned before, she's the first of the core 4 to lose her virginity to her boyfriend Snake. What was your favorite storyline to play, and what was your least favorite? Do you have those?
We all agree on this too. It's not gross and just no drama to it at all, but we 4 loved the episodes where it was just for us 4 without any guest stars, and it usually involved a physical comedy aspect to it. Obviously, the famous painting scene, yes, in the beginning, but there is an episode called Cruising where we're all in Blair's dad's Cadillac, and it was the 4 of us in this car. Kim's character, Tootie, was trying to win tickets to some concert, so there was a radio, so we kept having to pull over. But it was basically the 4 of us. That episode, the episode with Fabian and Bobby Rydell, where anytime we got to put on costumes, right?
I remember that one, yeah.
Right? So that was one of our favorites. We just loved being the four of us together. And probably we would get about 4 episodes a season of that. And those are our favorites. We made memories those weeks, for sure.
Lisa Whelchel has said that the normal facts of life were not allowed on the facts of life, meaning that they frowned on weight loss or weight gain or growing breasts or hips, that like they weren't necessarily considerate of women growing up. Playing that role for 10 years, was there ever a point where you felt like you were able to assert yourself in the way that like Natalie looked or dressed or the way that she was written?
So my experience was so different from Lisa's. So I don't know, looking back on the seasons, you can see, Mindy found step class. Then Mindy found spinning, and so there's a few seasons there where truly Natalie is the thinnest of all of them. And the wardrobe and I had a very close relationship. I got very into fashion. Obviously, my friends, like Isaac Mizrahi, started to become known. So I wore designer duds, not Blair. Natalie did, because I was wearing Comme des Garçons, and I was bringing it a couple seasons. And so my experience is they did not ask me to lose weight, but they didn't berate me when I did lose weight and got in shape. I think because in the early days of Blair and Lisa gaining weight, they were upset because part of her character, and she'll now tell you, she's now kind of rethunk it a little, right? Part of that character needed to be this glamour queen. And I think back to another sitcom in the day, Designing Women, where Delta Burke was the same way, right?
Of course, yeah.
And where the character's identity, she didn't have to be thin, but it was so much funnier when she was, because the jokes, the writers could write that, right? But somehow, if you're heavy or overweight, you're vulnerable, and somehow you can't be as caustic. We know that not to be true now, but this is back in the day, right? Where stereotypes were the norm. And what I loved, so people may have identified Natalie as the fat kid, but the writers never did. There were never fat jokes on purpose. The couple of jokes that were, Natalie said them. They were self-deprecating, right? I'd rather be a
magic marker
than a mean pencil or something, whatever she said. But those were, I think there were 3 in 9 seasons that I said, and no one ever, there wasn't a question. There wasn't ever a joke of Natalie being fat or attention brought to it. So again, I just think behind the scenes, Lisa had a very different experience than I did, that I know Nancy did, that I know Kim did. That
makes sense.
Yeah.
And also, sitcoms have such narrow confines of, like you were saying, how the jokes are structured and sort of what the format is. So there's not a lot of wiggle room within that for let's talk about the sort of what does that mean if Blair is putting on weight, or that's not going to be addressed. They don't want to deal with that.
Which to me was too bad. I don't know if it would have hurt, but I actually think you lost something by not addressing it. Joe had the perfect opportunity every time to address it.
Yeah.
But again, our show wasn't about being cruel. It was about these girls and being friends and loving on each other and not taking each other down.
Okay, Mindy. So from our research, your theater credits include productions of Bell, Book, and Candle, Catholic Schoolgirls, Table Settings, and Glorious, where you played Florence Jenkins. You have said that you are a theater person, but you've never done Broadway. Do you have Broadway ambitions and any dream theater roles?
It is my ambition. My goal is to be doing 8 shows a week for the rest of my life if I had my druthers. And I will get there. The truth of it is you really have to be back in New York, living full-time there. And without disclosing too much about my private life, I have things keeping me here in LA for a couple years, at least more. And that's okay with me. But that is my dream. I would like to perish up there on the boards. I love New York. It loves me back. I love everything about theater and being a part of that community. And they have welcomed me with open arms when I'm there, not just, obviously as an audience member, but I think any actress or actor who makes it known that this is where they want to be. The theater community back there goes, anytime, doors open, come on in, it feels good. That really is my dream. The truth of the matter, though, is no matter what cities claim to be new film cities, most of the work is in Los Angeles. and I am just so determined to get back on television. And that's really what I want to be doing right now.
So as a young woman, you appeared in the aforementioned Table Settings by James Lapine with Stockard Channing, Dinah Manoff, and Eileen Heckert, which was filmed for HBO. We love all of those women so much. Can you tell us any specific memories you have of working with those powerhouses?
Oh my gosh, I can. It was truly like, you want to talk about your best TV experience, getting discovered and landing on Facts of Life. My first theater experience with those amazing women. By the way, I should just drop a couple names. And Robert Klein playing my dad and Peter Rieger playing my uncle. I mean, it was like, what? But I remember, so Dinah Manoff and I shared a dressing room. I know.
Oh my God, I love her so much.
Ditto. Stockard Channing was absolutely everything you would want her to be and more. Just brilliant, funny. The only thing that made me nervous about Stockard was that Stockard is one of those actresses, at least stage actresses, where she's carrying her script till opening. And you're like, if you're gonna, it's such a pressure to be off book, especially for theater, so you can really get the flavor, and she's just not about that. So that was nerve-wracking. Eileen Heckart, I remember she would be sitting in her little box of a room getting ready and putting her makeup on and her hair, and I would be sitting outside of her dressing room, and she just gabbed about being an actor and what it means and what it's about, and that you have to love yourself and not be a self-hating actor, and that it's hard and people won't take you seriously, and your natural state is unemployment and you have to get used to that. So one more time, hearkening Norman Lear's words of this is what you do, not who you are. The natural state for an actor is to be unemployed. And you have to be a certain kind of gypsy spirit to sort of live and be okay with that. And so these amazing people in my lives that came forward, and Eileen was one of them. And we used to talk in her deep, gravelly voice and, just talk about a legacy. I had the same thing with Ruth Gordon and Jerry Page. And of course, Cloris Leachman was my game changer. She changed the game for me.
Okay, Mindy, one of your longest running gigs was as the voice of Velma Dinkley from Scooby Doo, which you did for nearly 15 years.
Yes.
How difficult was it to take on such a beloved role? And is your voice Velma adjacent, or did you have to work to find it and match it back to that original Velma sound?
Well, it was a radical audition process. And so through that audition process, I think I went 4 or 5 times into the recording booth with Warner Brothers and the casting director and the producers. And yes, and then originally it was much more of the, hey gang, the much more Midwestern Velma. And so those first couple of seasons, yes, I worked very hard to get that kind of Midwestern twang that was the original. And listen, I always tell people who call Natalie an icon, it's no, I played the true icon. That would be Velma Dinkley. I grew up on Velma, so you can only imagine. And then, of course, the way we stood in the booth, it was Frank Welker, me, and Casey Kasem, and Gray Delisle. So for 11 years before Casey left us, once a week, I'd step into that recording booth and have these 2 brilliant, I call Frank the Robert De Niro of voiceover work. And Casey, again, my entree, right? We talk about this, Facts of Life, theater, and now voiceover. I'm plopped right into just the cream of the crop. So I had the most delectable experience. It was financially an amazing thing for 15 years, especially for an actor. As I've told you, our natural state is to be unemployed. I was employed for 15 years straight through. It's who has that except, my friends who are on soap operas, right? Very rare. So the financial security was incredibly liberating. And just to be a part of a franchise that you love so much. And I did. I cherish Velma still to this day. She is very, very precious to me. And all of my Scooby fans, it's so amazing they don't go away, even though there's a new voice. They are so tried and true. It truly was one of the best working experiences I've had in my whole career.
In July of this year, they confirmed that Velma was a lesbian or is a lesbian.
I know.
Did you play her as such? Or were you surprised that they actually said that this was a thing?
nothing surprises me. Again, maybe an age thing. I do have to say, when I grew up with Velma, she had a crush on Shaggy. And through most of my seasons with her, he would frustrate her, but she still loved Shaggy. And all he had eyes for was Scooby. Like he couldn't care, and food. He couldn't care less. So it was a turn. But again, I couldn't be more thrilled again for young girls and little girls to have an icon that they can see themselves in a cartoon, I think is friggin' brilliant. So I only have kudos for Warner Brothers for doing it.
In 2017, you revealed that you had been battling cancer for 5 years. That time overlapped with your work of Scooby Doo and your constant voiceover work. Can you talk about how you balanced working while going through, numerous cancer treatments?
Unfortunately, it really messed with my ability to work. And there were some weeks that I called in unavailable and did not share why. I don't know if that was a mistake or, again, it goes back to my privacy thing that I have where, there's so many brave and wonderful women who would, and men who would come out with about their cancer stories. And I just didn't think mine needed to be there. I'm already known for Facts of Life, which is already challenging to, go into the audition rooms and not have, I have to wait 2 minutes till they get their Natalie juju out, right? Till they see Mindy and maybe perhaps another character. That I didn't want another thing tagged on me. My favorite actors try very hard that people don't really know their private life too much. I think it's important, and especially if I want to age into my second half of a career, which I do, I just think it's really important to just have that boundary. It also makes me more comfortable as a person. So I really was not forthcoming with anything until I was ready to come back out to work. And that's when my manager kind of said, look, I know you don't want to do, Good Morning America. Everybody wanted me to come and talk about my ordeal, which is what I call it. And I said, I will do one thing, one time. And the way I felt comfortable coming out with it, and it really was, and I don't know if people want to judge me for it or not. It really was like, I'm healthy. I'm ready to get back to work. Hire me, bitches, was to do this People magazine article from my best friend's farm. They also have a business. And it's like, if I felt I could promote them and their business and sort of say, and by the way, I healed here, it made it more comfortable for me to be able to promote Brent and Josh and Beekman 1802 and say, and by the way, these two lovely, adorable, wonderful men who are my best friends, this is my safe haven, and this is where I got well. And I think everyone, no matter what it is, needs to find their thing to get well. Mine was, who knew? A girl from, right? It's a farm. Didn't think I was a farmer. Apparently I am.
Okay, Mindy, now we are entering the part of the show. This is our rapid fire. The idea is that we're going to move faster. We'll see. But we're going to throw things at you. There's not really going to be segues or grace. You can take your time. You don't need to feel like you need to be rapid, but for us, we are rapid.
Let's be rapid.
Okay, Mindy. Oscar winner Cloris Leachman joined the Facts of Life in the last 2 seasons in the role of Mrs. Garrett's sister, Beverly. Yes. And we previously interviewed your co-star Nancy McKeon, who intimated that Charlotte Rae and Cloris were not exactly best friends.
Right.
Can you describe their relationship for us from your perspective?
Well, I know the history of it because Cloris and I didn't just work together, but again, she's my mentor in every way, personally, career-wise, all of it. The truth of the matter is that Cloris was in the same class at Northwestern with Patricia O'Neill and Colleen Dewhurst. I mean, all these women. And Charlotte was 2 years behind them. And they were the Kroll girls, right? Well, they were older. They weren't in her grade, right? And they were in the theater department too, but they were, I think, juniors when Charlotte was a freshman. So they knew each other, but they had never been friends. But this sense of that they went to Northwestern together was true, but not really true. They were on campus together,
Right.
They were not friends. And so I think there has been this, they were jealous of each other. They were this, they were that. None of that could be further from the truth. It's just this kind of Northwestern lore. And I do think that Charlotte always felt, as I have felt, as we all have felt, that it would have been so great if we could have been friends with those girls or guys who were in the grades 2 years ahead of us. That's all that is. But it's true. They were not friends.
Yeah, I think I was like, I read that they were best friends and Charlotte got her the job and Nancy was like,
No. You know who got the job? Here's Dish. Marion Ross got the job. But Cloris called Norman Lear and said, I need a job. What you got going? And Marion Ross was replaced. She never did an episode with Cloris Leachman. Cloris Leachman did not come to the set first. We did a 2-hour movie in Australia. And that's when Cloris joined the cast. So by the time we got back into studio, we'd already bonded with Cloris. And, it was just such a different relationship because we were all young ladies by then. So she met us when we were already grown. You know what I mean? So it just was such a different
thing.
Did you grow up watching Mary Tyler Moore and Phyllis? Like, were you a fan of Cloris before she came on the show?
Yes, and yes. Young Frankenstein. Okay. I'm sorry. High Anxiety. I'm sorry. Yeah. Also, can I just tell you the really cool thing that she did? This is why actresses don't do this shit anymore. She went to a very shishi poo-poo paper place that is no longer in existence in Beverly Hills and bought Beverly Ann Stickle stationery. And as Beverly Ann wrote Natalie, Tootie, Blair, and Joe letters. Hi, I'm in my Winnebago and I'm coming to be with you and I couldn't be more excited. It makes me want to weep right now. It was one of the coolest things I've ever received in my life. Here comes our PA, and this is for you, in this beautiful cream stationery with turquoise I still have it, with embossed Beverly Ann, and you open up this letter, and she's writing to Natalie. And this is 2 weeks before Cloris came to the set. It was...
Oh, she was method, but in the most generous, kind way that one could be method.
Like, hi, I'm coming in to your thing that's so successful and don't mind me, I'm the new girl, but hi. It was so darling. And that's Cloris.
It's a class act.
Yeah.
Okay, Mindy, you have dabbled in reality TV, making appearances on What Not to Wear, Worst Cooks in America, Long Island Medium, and Celebrity Ghost Stories. Can you rank those experiences from best to worst?
Ghost Stories number 1. Long Island Medium number 2 best. And 1 and 2 tied, I gotta say, because I am a Teresa Caputo fan.
Oh my God, I love you.
Okay, so Teresa's my jam. And so 1 and 2 are close. The other 2 are the reason you don't do reality television. They were the worst experiences of my life, full stop.
Mindy, you've made guest appearances on Charles in Charge, 21 Jump Street, Dream On, Suddenly Susan, One-on-One, Hot in Cleveland, The Middle, and Bones, to name a few.
Thank you.
Which of these shows had the most dysfunctional set, wildest set, blank, insert word set?
Bones.
What was the vibe at Bones?
Boreanaz.
Yeah. He won't do coverage. He's an asshole.
Oh.
What?
I didn't have scenes with him, so it didn't affect me. But apparently they shoot him, and then he leaves. He won't do coverage.
Oh, he has a stand-in.
Now, can we just talk about this? Meryl Streep does coverage.
Oh, that is so rude. It's so not generous to your acting partner.
That's not. I would not want to be on that set. I wouldn't tolerate it, and then I'd get fired. So,
Oh, my gosh.
I knew it. I could smell it on Boreanaz. Okay. Mindy, you were allegedly slated to be a cast member on the first season of the reality show, The Surreal Life. But ultimately, you seem to have been replaced by Gabrielle Carteris. What the fuck happened?
I replaced myself with her. They said, give us somebody, and I gave them Gabrielle. That's exactly what happened. I am so grateful. No, you guys have to understand. I did Worst Cooks because my dad is such a huge Food Network fan, and also I'm such a ridiculous fan of Chef Ann. Okay, that's why I did that. Worst Dressed, I've been honest with you guys. It was a free week in New York. I will never turn down a trip to my city, period.
Yeah.
That's why I did that. So there is no reason to do reality television, and Surreal Life kept throwing ridiculous amounts of money that it was very challenging to turn it down. That's how much money they offered. And then finally it's like, look, just give us somebody. And at the time, my old agent also represented Gabrielle. And I said, she'll do it. And good.
The rumor goes that you are very good friends with Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie and are even godmother to one or more of their children.
I know.
But you've never confirmed or denied this. Right now, on You Might Know Her From, will you answer the age-old rumor, are you the godmother to any of their children?
No.
We knew we were going to get that answer, but we had to ask it.
We had to ask.
Okay, Mindy. While you don't have any scenes with Nell Carter, you have both appear in the 2003 comedy fantasy film Swing, where you portray a lesbian who plays the upright bass.
Yes!
At what point in the film your character says to your roommate who is doing some sort of time travel to go back to a swing club in the big band era, you say to him, swing? Too hetero. Which begs the very important question, fuck, marry, kill these neo-swing bands. Brian Setzer Orchestra, Cherry Poppin' Daddies, or the Squirrel Nut Zippers?
Oh my God. Mary Seltzer band. Forever.
Okay, you're a Brian Setzer fan, so you're going to marry the Brian Setzer Orchestra.
Okay.
I'm going to fuck. Boy, who would you?
I have reasons for both.
I do too.
I have reasons for both. I mean, look, Cherry Poppin' Daddies, it's in the title, but I think it's a little too on the nose.
I know.
So I'm going to go with Squirrel Nut Zippers. They also have a female member of their band. So I am going to go Squirrel Nut Zippers. Yeah.
I'm going with Anne's choices.
Yes! Yes!
I want to be amenable.
Mindy Cohn, this has been above and beyond. I can't even tell you. Thank you for bearing with us through all of our technical glitches, through all of our questions. We have had an absolute divine ball with you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm going to say that I don't think Mindy was into the fuck, marry, kill with the swing band, but I was so tickled by my joke that I was like, we're not editing this thing out.
This is a keeper. I saw the Squirrel Nut Zippers in concert at the Blue Note in Columbia, Missouri in probably in the year 2000.
I love them in earnest.
Me too.
Do you know who
Put
they
a
are?
lid on it. What's that you say?
Is that them? I
Put
thought that's the Cherry Poppin'
lid.
Daddies.
No, do not. The Cherry Poppin' Daddies. Yeah, Cherry Poppin' Daddies are Zoot Zoot Riot.
Yeah, they're my least favorite. They're my least favorite of that trio.
Well, they're disgusting.
Folks.
No, I know. Do the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones count? No, they're different.
They're ska.
Sorry, they're ska. Sorry. I got confused. Aesthetically, I got it.
It is a thing. Like, it's not, you're not totally off base.
No, I am. It's for sure a different genre.
But it's close. Letters to Cleo, save Perez.
Okay, the point is that Mindy gave us gay, lesbian, and old character actress info. So I just felt like there was a lot of richness there. Also, hello, Marion Ross.
I forgot it was amazing.
Come on. That is a bomb drop as far as I'm concerned. I tried to find it on the internet. I couldn't find it anywhere. So, we're breaking news here on You Might Know Her From.
David Bowie and us too.
Oh, look, Mindy was for us. We had a great time with her.
Oh, did you want to talk about Janet Jackson?
Oh my God. Okay, so this didn't make the cut of the interview because no new information was shared. But if you Google it, which we had when we were doing our research, we found out that apparently Mindy Cohn recorded background vocals for PYT, aka one of mine and Alex Munoz's favorite songs of all time, with Janet Jackson. So we found that and we're like, what the fuck? That's the craziest thing. And she was like, it was crazy. I got to do some really crazy stuff in my life. I don't really talk about my relationship with the Jacksons because it's personal and private, and we've been friends for 30 years. So
yeah, allegedly,
we let that be.
Yeah, she and Janet and maybe LaToya were doing the background vocals for Michael's PYT. Very cool.
We have one more bit of business, and that's, of course, to connect this week's guest to next week's. Because, as you know, we are back weekly every Thursday with new episodes of You Might Know Her From. So we've started doing this where we connect this week's to next week. So Mindy Cohn was in an episode of Suddenly Susan with Brooke Shields.
Who was also in...
She was in The Other Guys with Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell and next week's guest.
We're excited. Folks, we love you. Please make sure that you are, connecting with us, sending us messages and whatnot. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. I'm Damian Bellino, and my little cohort over here is at Rodeman. That's RODEMANNE. You might
might know her from is produced by Ann Rodeman and Damian Bellino. That's us, these two. I'm in blue, Damian's in pink. I may have been in blue for the last 4 days. I'm going to change my shirt. And we want to shout out our consultants at Grumpy Entertainment, the wonderful Jason Jude Hill and Danielle Sears, and all of that crisp, stunning perfection that you're hearing is courtesy of editing by Danielle Sears.
Thank you to Gang. Oh, we love Gang. Thank you to Gang for all the music that you hear in these episodes. You can find them on iTunes or wherever you listen to your music. Go find Gang. I want to give a shout out to listener Sarah, who said that Meryl Streep's voice improved. Did you agree with her?
Sarah knows where I stand on this. I think that she doesn't do as much intel as we do about the amount of sweetener and the amount of singing that Meryl Streep has unfortunately done throughout her career that we've had to bear witness to. Postcards from the Edge, Ricky and the Flash. Does she sing in Silkwood? I don't know. God, she sings
Mamma Mia,
Death Becomes
Perry
Her.
Home Companion.
She's amazing in Death Becomes Her. I mean, she's amazing in so many of the things, but it's just like, come on, give it to somebody else.
I agree.
Give it to Toni Collette.
Oh, Toni Collette recently said she'd never do Broadway again.
She got slapped by Mandy Patinkin.
He
got to get out of
spit
there.
on her, Ann and I, in the Broadway message boards about it at least twice a year.
That's right. He spit on her, and then she slapped him, which he deserved.
Yeah, I think Equity got involved. Anyway, this is a real
inside baseball.
This is how the sausage is made.